You love telling your friends about the hours you grind on the football pitch every week, don't you? There's something satisfying about saying, yeah, I've been training nonstop. But here's a question most players never ask themselves. If you could only train for 2 hours a week, what would you actually focus on? Think about it. Because the truth is, most players waste time training everything equally, and that's why they see so little progress. Today, we're breaking down how to use the 80-20 rule in your football training, how just 20% of your efforts can deliver 80% of your results. This isn't about working harder, it's about working smarter. And when you get this right, your game will change forever. So let's get into it. Step 1, prioritize high-leverage training. Let's be honest, most players train the wrong way. They show up, do a little bit of everything, and call it a day. They think balanced training means they're covering all their bases. But here's the truth. Balanced training is just a way to stay average. If you want to stand out, you need to hyper-focus on the skills that will give you the biggest return on your time. Let me break it down with an example. Imagine you're a winger. You're decent at passing and shooting, but every time you face a defender in a 1-versus-1, you lose the ball. What do you think your training should look like? If you're like most players, you'd spend time on passing drills, shooting drills, maybe some fitness work, and maybe a little bit of 1-versus-1 practice. But here's the problem. You're spreading yourself too thin. You're giving your biggest weakness, 1-versus-1 situations, just a fraction of your attention, while wasting time on skills you're already comfortable with. Now let me tell you what I did wrong. Early in my career, I made this exact mistake. I trained everything equally. I'd spend time on passing, shooting, dribbling, and even juggling, thinking I was becoming a complete player. But in games, I kept getting exposed in 1-versus-1s. I wasn't improving where it mattered most. It wasn't until I cut out the noise and hyper-focused on my weaknesses that I started seeing real progress. Here's how you do it. Identify your 3 to 4 hyper-focus areas. Sit down and ask yourself, what are the 3 to 4 skills that, if I mastered them, would completely change my game? For a winger, it might be 1-versus-1 dribbling, explosive first touches, and crossing accuracy. For a defender, it could be 1-versus-1 defending, heading, and positional awareness. Be ruthless. Don't pick things you're already good at. Pick the things that are holding you back. Structure your training around these areas. Once you've identified your hyper-focus areas, 80% of your training should revolve around them. For example, if 1-versus-1 dribbling is your weakness, spend the majority of your session working on explosive moves, change of direction, and beating defenders under pressure. Use cones, resistance bands, or even a partner to simulate game-like scenarios. The key is to train these skills until they become second nature. Maintain everything else. The remaining 20% of your training should be spent maintaining your strengths. If you're already a good passer, you don't need to spend hours on passing drills. Just keep it sharp with a few reps here and there. The goal is to prevent regression in your strengths while making massive gains in your weaknesses. Why this works? The 80-20 rule isn't just a theory, it's a proven principle. In football, 20% of your skills will contribute to 80% of your success on the pitch. If you're a winger, your ability to beat a defender in a 1-versus-1 could be the difference between creating a goal-scoring opportunity and losing the ball. If you're a striker, your first touch and finishing under pressure could be the difference between scoring and missing. By hyper-focusing on these high-leverage skills, you're maximizing your training time and fast-tracking your improvement. How to stay locked in. It's easy to get distracted or fall back into old habits. That's why you need to write down your hyper-focus areas and keep them somewhere visible. Your phone, your training bag, even a sticky note on your mirror. Every time you train, ask yourself, am I working on what truly matters? If not, adjust. Stay disciplined. Progress comes from consistency, not just effort. Now that you know what to focus on, let's talk about how to train. Because even with the right priorities, you can still waste time if you're not training the right way. That's where cutting down on wasted volume comes in. If you're an under-17 player that wants to go pro, I made a completely free 1-versus-1 playbook for you, so you never freeze or lose the ball under pressure again. Click the first link in the description or pinned comment, fill out the form, and grab your free copy now. Step 2, cut down on wasted volume. Now, let's talk about something most players get wrong, training volume. When I say cut down on wasted volume, I'm not telling you to train less. I'm telling you to train smarter. There's a huge difference between putting in the hours and putting in the right hours. Here's the reality. Mindless repetition doesn't make you better. A study by Anders Ericsson on deliberate practice proves that progress comes from focused, feedback-driven reps, not just grinding for the sake of it. So if you're spending 2 hours juggling the ball without purpose, you're not improving. You're just burning time. Instead, replace those 2 hours with 20 minutes of high-intensity, game-like drills. For example, swap out random juggling for purposeful first touch drills under pressure. The goal isn't to train longer, it's to train with intent. Every rep should have a purpose. Every session should push you closer to your hyper-focused goals, because at the end of the day, time is your most valuable asset. Spend it on what actually moves the needle. Step 3. Focus on what translates to real games. You can spend hours on the training pitch, but if what you're doing doesn't mirror the chaos, pressure, and unpredictability of a real match, you're not actually improving. The best players don't just train hard, they train smart. They design their sessions to replicate the exact conditions they'll face in games. If you're not doing the same, you're leaving gaps in your development that will show up when it matters most. Let's break this down. The problem: training that doesn't translate. Most players fall into the trap of training for the sake of training. They do drills that look impressive, fancy footwork, long-range shooting, or endless juggling, but when the game starts, they struggle to perform. Why? Because those drills don't prepare them for the real demands of a match. For example, juggling for hours might improve your touch, but does it help you when a defender is closing in and you need to control a high ball under pressure? Shooting from 30 yards out might feel satisfying, but how often do you actually take those shots in a game? And when you do, are you prepared to strike cleanly with defenders in your face? Dribbling through cones is great for technique, but does it teach you how to beat a defender who's actively trying to tackle you? If your training doesn't look, feel, and demand what a real game does, you're not preparing yourself for success. The solution: train like you play. To bridge the gap between training and match performance, every drill you do should meet these 3 criteria. Game-like pressure. The best drills simulate the intensity and unpredictability of a match. This means adding defenders to your attacking drills. If you're practicing 1 versus 1s, don't just dribble past a cone, dribble past a teammate who's actively trying to stop you. Incorporating time constraints. In a game, you don't have unlimited time to make decisions. Train with a 3-second rule. When you receive the ball, you have 3 seconds to scan, decide, and execute. Using small-sided games, 3 versus 3, 4 versus 4, 5 versus 5. These are the closest you'll get to match conditions in training. They force you to think quickly, move efficiently, and perform under pressure. Repetition of game-changing moments. 80% of the decisive moments in a match come from mastering the basics under pressure. So, what are those moments? Here's what you should focus on. First touch under pressure. Can you control a pass cleanly when a defender is closing in? Practice receiving balls at different heights and speeds while a teammate or coach applies light pressure. Quick combinations, 1-2s, give and goes. These are the building blocks of attacking play. Train them at match speed, not just in slow, controlled drills. Shooting in traffic. How often do you get a clean, uncontested shot in a game? Almost never. Practice shooting with defenders in your line of sight or while sprinting onto the ball. Scanning before receiving. Elite players scan the field 2 to 3 times before the ball arrives. Train this habit by adding a scan requirement to every passing drill. Position-specific realism. Your training should reflect the specific demands of your position. Here's how. For wingers, focus on explosive dribbling, crossing under pressure, and 1v1 defending. Train with drills where you have to beat a defender and deliver a cross in one motion. For strikers, work on finishing from different angles, holding up play with your back to goal, and making runs into space. Use drills where you have to time your runs to meet a through ball. For midfielders, practice receiving under pressure, quick turns, and switching play. Train in tight spaces to improve your ability to escape pressure and distribute the ball. For defenders, focus on 1 versus 1 defending, heading in crowded boxes, and recovery runs. Simulate scenarios where you're outnumbered and need to delay or win the ball. The cheat code: small-sided games. If there's one thing you take from this, it's this. Small-sided games are the ultimate training tool. Here's why. They force quick decision-making. You don't have time to overthink, just like in a real match. They improve your spatial awareness. You learn to anticipate where teammates and opponents will be. They build endurance and mental toughness. The intensity of a 4 versus 4 game is much closer to a real match than a slow passing drill. They expose your weaknesses. If you struggle with 1 versus 1s or quick passes, it'll show up immediately. And that's a good thing. It tells you exactly what to work on. Pro tip: after every small-sided game, ask yourself, where did I lose the ball? What could I have done better in that 1 versus 1? Did I make the right decision under pressure? Use these answers to adjust your hyper-focus areas for the next session. The mindset shift. Here's the hard truth. Training should feel uncomfortable. If you're always comfortable, you're not pushing yourself enough. The best players crave the pressure because they know it's the only way to improve. So the next time you're in training, ask yourself, does this drill feel like a real game? Am I being challenged, or am I just going through the motions? What's the one thing I can do right now to make this harder and more realistic? If you can answer these questions honestly and adjust your training accordingly, you'll start to see real, measurable improvement in your performances. Now you know what to train and how to train it. But there's one more piece to the puzzle. How do you make sure you're actually getting better? Step 4. Track and reflect. Here's the final piece of the puzzle. If you're not tracking your progress, you're leaving improvement on the table. Most players train, go home, and never think about what worked or what didn't. But the best players, they analyze, reflect, and adjust. After every session, ask yourself, what drill gave me the most improvement today? What do I need to focus on in my next session? You don't need a fancy setup to do this. Even a simple training journal or video analysis can help you spot patterns, identify weaknesses, and double down on what's working. Top players use this to stay ahead, and so can you. This isn't just about working hard. It's about working hard on the right things in the right way and making sure every session counts. That's how you turn 2 hours of training into game-changing results. Let's recap what we've covered. Hyper-focus on your weaknesses. Pick 3 to 4 areas that will have the biggest impact on your game and attack them relentlessly. Cut the fluff. Replace mindless training with deliberate, high-intensity drills. Train for real games. Focus on drills that mimic match conditions. Pressure, speed, and decision-making. Track and reflect. Analyze your progress after every session to keep improving. This is how you apply the 80-20 rule to your football training. It's not about training more, it's about training better. If you want to take this even further, click the first link in the description or pinned comment, fill out the form, and grab your free copy now. Let's keep the motivation high. Remember, discipline is tough in the moment, but it's the foundation of greatness. Stay consistent, trust the process, and I'll see you in the next video. Let's get to work.